The First Book of Moses, Bereshith, Chapter 1, First Creation by Elohim. In the former time periods, as a powerful sign of working, chief son and heir Elohim filled with choice things, behold, as a sign Shemayim, the place of the names, and behold, as a sign Aratz, the chief place of running. But observe how Aratz was unorganized and empty, and Sheshach rose up from the deep waters, went up to its face, but the Ruach Elohim, as a wall of protection, moved violently upon the surface of the waters. Elohim then declared, light he will exist, and light he will exist. And Elohim gazed upon that beautiful light, and Elohim made distinctive the light from the darkness. And to the light Elohim called out the name Ya'um, and to the darkness he called out the name Leah Laha. This was the close and the dawn of the first age.
The Ketub Abarayath, or the PaleoHebrew, is a language over 5,000 years old. It chronicles a story branching forth from ancient time. His story, Yahweh. Walk into his story. Read the PaleoHebrew scriptures.
The greatest story never told. Second Passover, second Exodus, and of course the harrowing of hell. As you can see, that was, looking at this document in front of you, that was kind of a last minute title change. I think that's what I'm going with, the greatest story never told, because it's true. I'm, raise the hands out there, maybe amongst my audience. A great number of you know what second Passover and the second Exodus is, but if I would imagine that if I were to go to most Bible believing individuals out there, whether they're evangelical, Protestants, Orthodox Catholic, they might not know what it is. So hopefully I will leave you with more answers than questions, though this may bring up a lot of new questions tonight, a lot of fun things to look at tonight. Before I do want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody, to all my Sabbath keepers out there. I can't believe it's Friday night already. Ready or not, now I'm always ready to have my Shalom, my Shabbat Shalom. But Friday night comes up on me, and here we are with another teaching. And of course, to all my lunar Sabbath keepers out there, whatever day you are keeping the Sabbath this month, Shabbat Shalom to you as well. And I want to go over this really quickly. It's nobody's fault but my own. I have a lot of individuals. They come up to me and they're like, Noel, they'll hold up some extra biblical book or something like that. They're like, have you heard of this extra biblical book before? I'm like, yeah, actually I host that on my website. They're like, you do? I'm like, yeah, I have a whole page of like all these extra biblical books that I actually personally edited myself, formatted, and I put them up. And they're like, really, you do? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll tell them about all the articles that I write and that I update them every day. They're like, where can I find these? I'm like, it's on my website. So I want to show you guys really quickly, take you on a quick tour of my website before we get into it tonight. You're looking at it right here, and no, it's a little squished. So there's little things, a couple things buried there. Like there's the store. I'm not going to take you through the store. We are, of course, a book publisher, and we put out new books every single month. We have myself and others working behind the scenes to get them out for you, ancient knowledge kind of literature. But I want to take you through the archives real quick. And if you just go here and kind of scroll over that button, you can see this menu that pops down, and hopefully you can read this on your screen. Right over here, we have article updates. I'm going to take you to the article archives first. I'm going to show this to you. And this right here, every single one of these is a link to an to a paper that I have written. It's a long list. Now, this isn't even the bulk of them. I mean, there are so many that got buried on my website that never got converted into PDFs. These are all PDFs. These are all different subjects, from biblically focused to hoaxes and so on and so forth, conspiratorial. And they could be 30 pages. They could be 150, 200 pages. I mean, they're just all different links, tons of stuff on here. This is like the opening crawl to Star Wars here. It just keeps going. So you have that right there. Have fun. Look through that. And speaking of which, I have the article updates. Now, this is my personal diary that I put on. You can see all the dates. 4/18. Hey, that's today. Today's 4/18. I actually had 2 updates today. Look at that. And I give you all the papers that I constantly update, because I'm going back in, finding new information, putting it in there, adding 7, 10 pages sometimes at a time, sometimes just a page of new information. If it's new, you can see it right there. It's highlighted red. Oh, look, a new paper came out just 1 week ago, Cinderella and the Feminine Divine. I haven't given a presentation on that. And it just goes on and on and on through the years, and you could see how these papers build. So it's all right there for your documentation. Let's see, what else do we have on here? There's a contributing authors page, a lot of those. There's the TUC Book Club. The TUC Book Club is, I do readings on Tuesday nights, and I record. We go straight through the books that we publish. We went through Witness of the Stars. We're going through the Travels of Noah now, and I record them, put them up there. Those are for all my Patreon subscribers. Thank you for all my ministry supporters out there. We need you. We need ministry supporters, people who want to come alongside of us to ensure that we can continue doing what we're doing and get the Paleo scriptures published, among other things. Here's my sacred scripture page. Let's look at this real quick. Let's see what we got on here. Look at all these extra biblical books. There's so many. There's just so many now. Oh, Book of the Illuminators. Oh, what do you know? That one is that one's in black, meaning there's no a link to that. We got to work on a couple of these. Oh no, I don't have the Didache off. The Didache up. What's going up with that? What's going on with that? Anyways, there's a bunch here. You can have fun. Look through those. That's for your reading pleasure and your learning. What else do we have here? There's all my Torah portions from last year, if you want to go through those. I got podcasts, all my podcasts, got a bunch of those. And here's the Hebrew Match dating site for all you singles out there. We actually do have a dating site for our community. Come check it out. And here's one thing that I don't go over enough. The 613, this is a tool. Now, it doesn't, my screen is kind of squished right here for this, so the whole thing doesn't come up. But this is an interactive tool where you can see the 10 Commandments and play around with this. It's a lot of fun, especially for those of you who are new to Torah or exploring Torah and trying to figure out how the 613 actually fits into the 10 Commandments. That literally, like the 613 are there to show you how to, for all the people out there, like, I just have to keep the 10 Commandments. And then, they throw out the 4th commandment, which is Sabbath, whatever. So they're just down to 9 commandments. Sometimes they'll add 11th or 12th, like thou shalt not dance or thou shalt not drink or something like that. But you can go through each of these here, like let's honor your father and mother, right? So we know that Messiah breaks it up into 2 commands, love God, love your neighbor. So we're going to come over here to the love God side. Look at this. Honor your father and mother. Oh, wow. Look at all these commands that pop up. Let's look at 309 right here. Do not break an oath or vow made in the name of Yahweh, Leviticus 19:12. All right. It gives you the actual scripture where you can look it up, and every single one of the 613 commands are listed here. That is a tool for you guys to look at. Have fun. And one more thing, because we are a community here, we are not just a YouTube channel. We do a lot of other things, and I invite everybody over to our Discord community. We meet every Friday night at 7:00, 2 hours before I come on live here. And last week I put out a plea for help. We were, kind of had our come to Jesus moment. And you guys came through with some flying colors. I mean, showed a lot of love. Y'all really blessed us this last week. And I just want to thank everybody. Again, we are asking for ministry supporters, ongoing, translating the Bible is going to be a 10 to 15 year process, kind of just give you guys the idea of how long we're looking to go into this. And you can see that I actually raised the price there because, we fulfilled last month's. We're working on the next month now. Thank you, everybody, for your support, sending it in. Love you guys very much. Let's get right into this. The grace story never told. You see what I did there? Second Passover, second Exodus. And starting at, I'm just going to explain to you so you're not confused what we're looking at when we're talking about second Exodus. Second Passover. So now, some of you out there may have not actually celebrated Passover yet. I think it's still coming up in a week or two. Mine was like, I've lost track of time, 3 weeks ago now. Everyone's on a different calendar. That's okay. But this is what we read about second Passover in Bimidbar. That would be the Paleo Numbers, chapter 9. Then Yahweh said to Moshe, speaking to the children of Yasharel, saying, if any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body. All right. So right there we have, if for whatever reason you encounter a dead body, maybe you're burying somebody, or that you be in a journey far off, yet he shall keep the Passover, the Pesach, unto Yahuwah the 14th day of the second month. At even they shall keep it and eat it with matzah and bitter herbs. All right. So it's giving you these these two qualifications. Okay. You are to keep the first Passover, but if you are far off on a journey or you encounter a dead body. So it's doing two things here. It's actually setting it up for Messiah, as we shall see. But it's also recognizing the diaspora. Yahweh knows that for most of Israel's history, when you come to think of it, most of Israel's history, they will be in the diaspora because of their transgressions, which we are in now. We are grafted into Israel. We are in the diaspora. Does this apply to us? Now, I have at least one friend who, the last time I spoke to him about this subject, he's under the impression that we should not be keeping first Passover because we are in the diaspora. We shall be keeping the second. I'm going to have more to say on this as we go forward. At the end of the day, each one of you out there, you have to make this decision for yourself. You know, it isn't commanded that we keep Passover, but if you feel that you are disqualified from keeping first Passover, then you need to keep second Passover. They shall leave none of it until the morning, the matzah and bitter herbs, nor break any bone of it, speaking of the lamb. According to all the ordinances of the Pesach, they shall keep it. All right. So you're still, the second Passover is done in the same way as the first Passover. It's just done at a later time. Now, we're going to tie in this idea of a second Exodus. You guys all know what the first Exodus is. Last week, I covered the Exodus account you've never heard. Of course, most of my audience had already heard it, but 99.9% of the world population had never heard it. And I also covered the Yahweh versus the gods of Egypt in the Passover Exodus storyline. However, there is a second Exodus that is talked about in Scripture, and if you saw the picture in the beginning that I showed you, I didn't say anything about it, but I already gave it away. What I believe it is, this is going to be a little bit more controversial to probably a lot of my Torah peeps out there. This is what it says: therefore, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when they shall no longer say, as Yahweh lives, who brought up the children of Yasharel out of the land of Mitzrayim, that would be Egypt. But as Yahweh lives, who brought up and led the seed of the house of Yasharel out of the north country and out of all the countries where he had driven them, then they shall dwell in their own land. Now, this is coming from Jeremiah. So this is speaking of a future time from when Jeremiah was alive, that there would be an event so amazing. I mean, think about this. If you were the original Exodus generation and you lived through all those plagues, and if you caught the video last week, it was just like on your face, on your knees, awe-inspiring, just trembling just to live through those and see the power of your God do that to a wicked nation. And, not even a hair on your head is scorched, right? You just come through with the shoes on your feet perfectly intact, everything intact, and you walk through that wall of water, and you come out to the other side. You experience the angel of death passing over your house. You put the blood there, and then you're baptized through the water, and you come up and you go to Sinai. That was an amazing thing for that generation to experience, one that they were talking about repeatedly for the next so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But the promise is that there's going to be another Exodus event that is going to happen, that is going to be so grand, on a scale so grand, that the people afterwards will not remember the first Exodus. So the question is, has this happened yet or not? I am taking the position that it has happened and that it's been right in front of our face the entire time. So let's keep looking for clues. Now that I've explained these two to you, I gave you the warning in advance that I will be kind of jumping around a little bit tonight. It might be a little bit jarring for some, but I want to establish this idea that when Yeshua showed up on the scene, that nobody knew who he was. There were angels who knew who he was, but not Satan. Satan did not know, and in fact, the dominion of darkness did not know who he was. Now, for some of you, that is going to be an impossible thought, but just hear me out on this. And all I can do in this situation is point to you to these other texts that say that is the case. That's where I'm pulling my information from. I'm not making this up, but maybe these texts are wrong. But all I can do is present them to you and see what you say. So this comes from the ascension of Yeshayahu. That would be Isaiah. This text was originally written in Hebrew. It was incredibly popular in the first century. And this is what it says. And the Elohim of that world, that would be the God of that world, or in Paleo, Elohim, the Elohim of that world, will stretch forth his hand against the sun, and they will crucify him on a tree and will slay him, not knowing who he is. Now, this is Isaiah actually prophesying here. And Satan is listening to this as he prophesies in Isaiah chapter 9, and he hates him for it, because Satan realizes that he has just given away what is going to happen, that he will be slain and crucified on a tree, and yet Satan's not going to figure it out until afterwards. And thus his descent, as you will see, will be hidden even from the heavens, so that it will not be known who he is. Meaning that even most of the angels, not all, but most, will have no clue that Yeshua is the Son of the Most High. So this is continuing on now. A little bit longer passage. This is chapter 10 of the Ascension of Isaiah. And so I saw my Adonai. Now, without giving you guys the whole lesson here on the 7 firmaments of heaven, there's actually 10. Watch my videos on those. It's all within the same kind of building complex of the one firmament, but in each of these firmaments, there's a whole different world, just as big as ours, or if not bigger. And what Isaiah watches as he sees into the future, and he sees Messiah descending through each of these different worlds until he gets to our own. And so I saw my Adonai go forth from the 7th heaven into the 6th heaven, and the angel who conducted me from this world was with me and said unto me, understand, Yeshayahu, and see the transformation and descent of Adonai will appear. And I saw, and when the angels saw him, thereupon those in the 6th heaven praised and lauded him, for he had not been transformed after the shape of the angels there. And they praised him, and I also praised with him. Now, this will make no sense to you if you don't understand that in each of these heavens, it gets more glorious than the next. Okay, so Messiah has just gone from the 7th into the 6th heaven, and he has all the glory of the 7th heaven. And now this is a tire system. I mean, most of the saints, will never get past, I shouldn't say most, because I don't know, but a great deal, according to the literature I've read, of the people who are just, kind of the grace people, if they kind of make it through and everything is burned, as Paul would say, they're not really putting in good fruit or good works, they're not going to make it very high in heaven. I have some texts at my disposal to say that they will never even enter the 3rd heaven into paradise. They will be just in New Jerusalem. But to make it up to the 7th heaven is like wowzers. All right. So he's going down to the 6th heaven, and he's not transformed. The angels all praise him. And I saw when he descended into the 5th heaven, that in the 5th heaven, he made himself like unto the form of the angels there. And they did not praise him nor worship him, for his form was like unto theirs. So he's going undercover. This is Yahshua going like, intel now, right? He's going into spy mode, and the angels in the fifth heaven don't even know who he is. And his whole mission was dependent upon this. Like his whole mission, as you will see, to be a Trojan horse, to be taken down into Sheol. He had to be murdered and taken down into Sheol. His whole mission is dependent on that. If word broke out and they didn't kill him, it might have been a different story. So he descends into the fourth heaven and made himself like unto the form of the angels there. And when they saw him, they did not praise or laud him, for his form was like unto their form. And again, I saw when he descended into the third heaven, and he made himself like unto the form of the angels in the third heaven. And those who kept the gate of the third heaven demanded the password, and Adonai gave it to them in order. Actually, there it actually might say the Lord, and I'd have to look at the verbiage. It might actually say Yehovah, but just for tonight, we'll say, and Adonai gave it to them in order that he should not be recognized. And when they saw him, they did not praise or laud him, for his form was like unto their form. And again, I saw, so he, like, this is like boss undercover, right? They don't know this is their boss. And again, I saw when he descended into the second heaven, and again, he gave the password there. Those who kept the gate proceeded to demand and Adonai to give. You remember that passage in, what is it, Hebrews, where it's like, anybody, like the homeless guy on the corner could be an angel, right? You don't know it. And we don't look at these people twice, because we think in terms, even the angels struggle with this, apparently. Kind of interesting. They think in terms of even the angelic world really struggles with this idea that the Messiah had to become the lowest in order to become the greatest in the kingdom. And this is, of course, an eternal principle for all of us. If we want to ascend to the seventh, we have to lower ourselves. Can't even say his name, Satan, or Azazel, who is trying to ascend to the heights, and he will be brought to the lowest point. And I saw when he made himself like into the form of the angels in the second heaven, and they saw him, and they did not praise him, for his form was like unto their form. And he keeps going on and on and on. And again, I saw when he descended to the first heaven. Now, according to this first heaven, this is still above the firmament above us. So in some literature, you're going to see the first heaven under the firmament. In this right here, it is the world directly above the firmament, right above our heads. And there also, he gave the password to those who kept the gate, and he made himself like into the form of the angels who were on the left of the throne. And they neither praised nor lauded him, for his form was like unto their form. And you guys will remember, it's going to take me forever to get through this tonight. You guys remember that in each of these worlds, there is an emperor, a king of that world, and he comes from the world above. So he is more glorious than everybody in that world. And then there's the people to the left of him, which represent the world below. For his form was like unto their form. But as for me, no one asked me on account of the angel who conducted me. And again, he descended into the firmament, where dwelleth the ruler of this world. That's the prince of power of the air, according to Paul. And there, of course, all the evil entities are kind of bickering right below the firmament there. So, and he gave the password to those on the left, and his form was like theirs. And they did not praise him there, but they were envying one another and fighting. What were they fighting for? Well, they wanted to be top management, and they're trying to take each other out, and they're not serving each other. For here there is a power of evil and envying about trifles. Of course, this is the ethereal realm where the, NASA goes up and they do the spacewalks and wink, wink. And it's kind of interesting when you watch what they're mimicking there, and they're trying to go up to this realm of these evil spirits. And I saw when he descended and made himself like unto the angels of the air, and he was like one of them. And he gave no password, for one was plundering and doing violence to another. What a horrid thought of what goes on right above our heads. This is why I believe that in the Gothic cathedrals and the castles of the Middle Ages, I'll just go ahead and say it, of the Millennial Kingdom, I don't know why after 5 years I still struggled saying that. Of the Millennial Kingdom, they were reminding us that up there in the ether, that's where the realm of the spirits were. This is again from chapter 11 of the same book. And I saw in Nazareth, he sucked the breast as a babe, and as is customary, in order that he might not be recognized. And when he had grown up, he worked great signs and wonders in the land of Yasharel and of Jerusalem. And now, according to this here, and when I go over Matthew chapter 1, when we finally go into Paleo Matthew in a couple weeks, I'm going to be showing you that there was a lot of very early Christian thought of what we would call docetism today, or maybe it's docetism, where he kind of like how people saw him as a baby or a young man or whatever was all perception. That goes completely against modern post-Newtonian science. But you can see that right there, that it was all undercover work. Even as a baby, he would park it to his mom's breast as undercover work. Like he's like, yeah, I don't need to do this right now, but I don't want to arouse suspicion. And when he had grown up, he worked great signs and wonders in the land of Yasharel and of Jerusalem. And after this, the adversary envied him and roused the children of Yasharel against him, not knowing who he was. And they delivered him to the king and crucified him. Who is the king? It's Herod. All the earliest texts that I can find show that Herod did it. Herod. There is only an emphasis on Pontius Pilate in more modern times. And of course, Herod was Esau. And crucified him, and he descended to the angel of Sheol. All right. We'll be covering more of that tonight. Again, in chapter 11, just skipping ahead a few verses, and I saw him, and he was in the firmament, but he had not changed himself into their form. This is on his way back up. He's ascending to heaven now, right? His mission is completed. And all the angels of the firmament and the Satans saw him, and they worshiped him. And there was much sorrow there. Isn't that an interesting thought, that even devils and, fiendish evil entities worship him? And there was much sorrow there, while they said, how did our Adonai descend into our midst, and we perceive not the glory which has been upon him? Of course, in their thinking, they couldn't understand how you have to become the servant of all in order to become the King of Kings, the greatest of all, which we see has been upon him from the sixth heaven. Now, on account of these visions, and this is skipping back to chapter 5 of the book, on account of these visions that Isaiah had, therefore Beliar, that would be Azazel, prince of power of the air, the big bad guy, top management from the dark side, Beliar was wroth with Yeshayahu, and he dwelt in the heart of Manasseh, and he sawed him in sunder with a wooden saw. So according to this is why Isaiah was sawn in half, because it is interesting here that Manasseh is a antichrist figure, because he is actually being possessed by Satan himself. And so that's kind of interesting to think about. But it was because he was so wroth at the fact that Isaiah knew something that was purposely being confused with Satan. Now, looking quickly here at the Annunciation of Gabriel, this is one of the things that many people are going to bring up. Well, what about this angel and that angel, and how could some know? One of the biggest, I think, contentions people are going to have is when some of the demons are crying out, like, and they're cast into the pigs. And in all those cases, my only defense, if the ascension of Isaiah and some of these other texts are correct and true, and I think that they are, it means that they're just prophesying. They're saying things. It's kind of like just coming out of their mouth, and which happens many, many times in the mortal realm with people as well. They just say things. They speak for Yah in ways they don't even understand. That's my only defense on that. But this is what we see here. And the angel Gabriel comes. You guys all know the Annunciation. And he says in Luke, and behold, you shall conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yahusha, or Yeshua, or Yahshua, as I'm calling him now, Yahshua. He shall be great and shall be called the Son of El Elyon, and Yahweh Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David, and he shall reign over the house of Yaakov forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. So my thing on this is that the reason why Gabriel knew is clearly we saw the explanation in the ascension of Isaiah. Gabriel lives up in the top tier of heaven. I mean, beyond the sixth, and the sixth level angels knew, but he's a seventh angel, seventh world angel. So he would also descend in the same manner, probably very covertly, probably changing his form. And he comes down, he appears to Mary, a couple other people, and this is, top secret stuff. And of course, in this situation, loose lips sink ships. You know what happens, right? When it gets out with the wise men, they have the loose lips, and a bunch of babies died as a result. So, and interesting enough, the Magi did not get their idea of the Messiah being born from angels. It was through knowledge of the heavenly realm. So no angels wanted to come and tell them about it. The shepherds knew. This is kind of a fun illustration. You guys know that I'm really big on the rondeau or the carol. I actually did an update on my paper today. If you go look at the diary, putting in some new, really awesome information. And the circular dance is just really cool. And it's a lost dance of the millennial kingdom. And you see these angels doing the rondeau above these feminine angels. It's very rare that you see feminine angels. I do believe that there are feminine spirits. It's not all just dudes in heaven. The reason you don't see them very often is because it's a patriarchy in heaven. And what happens is the men go out to fight, the men go out to hunt, the men go out working jobs. The women are working jobs, but they're, in the house, in the home, and they're, setting the plates out. While Gabriel goes out to on his scouting mission. But apparently, according to this, they were showing that they were these feminine angels. They were so excited for the birth of Messiah. They were coming down and doing the dance of the millennial kingdom. You guys know the story about the shepherds. This isn't a, Christmas story episode. I want to get to the stuff that you might not know about. It's just there. You can kind of see it if you want to pause and read it. This is what it says in the infancy gospel of Matthew. And some shepherds also affirmed that they had seen angels singing a hymn at midnight, praising and blessing the Elohim of heaven, and saying, there has been born the Savior of all, the Yeshua of all, who is Messiah, Yahweh, in whom salvation shall be brought back to Yasharel. So, again, the question is, are these angels kind of being a little too out there, kind of giving information away? I'll leave that for you to decide. I think that they were probably binding demons at this time. I think they were silencing the opposition. They have their ways of doing that, to the point that it finally came through Herod. He's like, what? And he's like sending out the soldiers to kill everybody. So we get to the temptation of Yahshua, and still Satan didn't have a clue. Now, if you guys were fans of Michael Heiser, I know whenever I bring up Michael Heiser, people like, there's somebody out there right now, just rolling their eyes. I don't like Michael Heiser. Well, whoop-de-doo. Michael Heiser had a lot of really cool things to say. There's things about all of us that are negative, and I like to focus on the positive things. And this is one of the things that Heiser, before he died, in his divine council kind of narrative, that he made a point of. He was the one to alert my attention. I had never thought about this before. And Heiser would say, hey, Satan he was actually trying to get intel from Messiah. He thought he was a crazy, he kind of figured out he was a prophet, but he didn't really know who he was. So let's read the account and then kind of dissect it. Now, this is coming from Bashara Matthew. This is the paleo version, which we just put out. Was it last month? Last month. It's been out like 2 or 3 weeks. Then Yashau. Now, I've asked Pamela about this, and sometimes in Matthew it puts an A at the end, sometimes it doesn't. So one of the things I love about Pamela, because I ask her these questions all the time, I'm like, is this a typo? She's like, no, this is actually what it says. So she one of the problems with a lot of scribes out there, translators, is that they don't know what to do with the passage, and so they just go with the norm instead of actually showing us what it says. And then you have whole generations of people that do it just because they think it ought to be done that way. So anyways, then Yashau was taken away by the Ruach HaKodesh into the wilderness to be tested from Ha-Shatan. And he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. And afterwards, he was starving. The tester drew near, and he said to him, conditionally, if you are the son of Allah Kuyam. There's that there's that Q in there. Fun times. Speak firmly to these stones that they will turn to bread. So again, he's trying to figure out what his powers are. It's not necessarily, would it have been a sin? Would it have been a transgression? I guess we could all have the discussion if Yeshua actually did make bread out of thin air, if he brought manna down. But anyways, this is how he responded. He answered and he declared unto him, it is written, for it is not upon bread alone, and so on. So they're, of course, going to grill each other with scripture. Then Hashatan took him into the Kudash city, that would be Yerushalayim, and he immediately placed him upon the highest place in all the Makudash. And he said toward him, conditionally, if you are Alakuyam, jump to your death. For it is written, he will command his Malachiah, those would be the angels, for you to guard you in all your ways, and so on. Now, a very interesting thing happens here. And Yasha'u answered toward him the second time, you shall not tempt your Alakuya. So he doesn't jump. And we're going to be looking at, how Satan is processing this. He's like, that's interesting. I asked you to jump and you didn't jump. It's almost like if you maybe filled with pride, if you could think of being in a conversation with somebody and they'll be like, you're not answering my question. You can't answer my question, can you? You have ever been in a discussion like that? Hopefully those of you listening don't do that to other people, but you'll be on the internet typing and you're trying to answer their question and you're like, you didn't answer my question, right? It's like, because you can't. And that's the way Satan is processing this. And Hashatan lifted him upon a very high mountain, and he revealed all the kingdoms of Eretz, that would be the earth, and their splendors. And he declared, to you, I will give all these if conditionally you will make bare your head toward me. And you have to wonder how many, celebrities get a very similar vision and they accept a slice of the pie. And of course, there's always, consequence in the end when he owns your soul, as you guys know. Then Yasha'u replied to him, walk, Hashatan, in a foreign, barbarous tongue, Satanas, since it is written. Oh, so that's really great. So it appears that Satan was speaking Hebrew here, or Pamela thinks Paleo, and he's like, stop speaking the holy language. I forbid it. Speak one of the pagan languages. I'm not going to converse with you anymore. Since it is written, Yahweh, him you will worship, and him alone you will serve. Then Hashatan left him. And this is a really weird part right here, which I love. I love the weird parts. And behold, Malachiam drew near toward him, and they burned him. So I immediately, when I read that weeks ago, I pull up the manuscript. I'm like, Pamela, what are you putting in? What is this? What, they burned him? Which, it could have been like, seraphim angels, the fiery, serpents. And usually most translations will say, and the angels came and they ministered to him. And then you see the illustrations of that. She thinks, she's like, that's what it said. She thinks that they're burning Satan. Like they're coming and they're actually tormenting Satan at that time. So he's, Yeshua's got his whole posse there showing up. So this is what Hasatan quotes from. He's quoting from Psalm 91. This is what it says. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Which is interesting because that was a fulfillment. It actually happened. Like he didn't jump, but the angels suddenly appeared. Isn't that amazing? And they're like, prodding Satan with a hot iron, burning his butt or whatever. I think of like a Tom and Jerry cartoon right there. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against the stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shall thou trample under foot. That's a prophecy right there for Satan himself. And so the way Satan is processing this, he's like, because he knows scripture and he's really frustrated because he, as much as he knows scripture, he can't figure out who the Messiah is or when he's coming. And so he's looking at this and going, okay, he's making a deductive argument here. He's like, okay, you jump off this building And if you are the Messiah, because this is a messianic passage, your feet will not touch the stones below because the angels are going to catch you. Oh, you didn't jump. You're afraid. This guy's afraid. For the rest of his ministry, Satan's thinking, this guy's afraid. And he even will say it later on. But interestingly enough, the ending still came to pass here, right? He literally trampled on the serpent, the dragon, as per Genesis 3. So let's talk now. Set that thought aside. We're going to be looking at something else, and all this will come together. I assure you, at least I hope so. The resurrection of the dead already happens. Now, I have been called all sorts of names for this. Many people even come into the Torah and they still have that very Protestant mindset. They're not really able to move past the futurist idea that, for 2,000 years, nothing has happened. We just went through the dark ages, right? And we're just now returning to this grafting in of Israel after 2,000 years of apparently failure at the cross. But I'm here to tell you that no, the dead did resurrect in a number of different ways. I see cases for physical and spiritual resurrection in the past, and I'm not going to go too much into depth on the spiritual resurrection aspect, though I did update that this week on my website. And I love this picture over here. It's like so badass. I don't know if that's the spear of Longinus there, but Yeshua is spearing a demon, and then he's taking the cross and impaling him with the I love that. Like, I want to frame that. Like, somebody wants to send me a gift, like, send me this frame, like, blow it up and I will put this on my wall. I love it. If I ever have like a physical church, when you walk up the staircase to Sunday school and you have that picture of Jesus there, like, this is the one I want, where he's impaling the demon for a children's Sunday school hour. And then over there on the right, you see I have a vast collection of medieval imagery of Messiah himself going down into Sheol and releasing people. That's actually called Hellmouth right there. I've given presentations on it, and I'll be showing you more of that tonight. I'll be bringing it all together. So one of the things we see in Hosea is that Yahweh personally promises that he will empty Sheol. So let's look at this. Oh, Yasharel, you have destroyed yourself, but in me is your help, or is your Yeshua, your salvation. I will be your king. Where is any other that may save you in all your cities? And your judges, of whom you said, give me a king and princes. I gave you a king in my anger and took him away in my wrath. The iniquity of Ephraim is bound up. His sin is hid. The sorrows of a travailing woman shall come upon him. He is an unwise son. For he should not stay long in the place of the breaking forth of children. Just for all you newbies out there, if you want to be grafted into Israel, interestingly enough, you get grafted in through Ephraim. He comes up a lot. What an unwise child he was. I will ransom them from the power of Sheol. There it is right there. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be your plagues. So they're right there. We're seeing a plague, like the plague of Egypt, right? We're going to be tying this into the second Exodus. O Sheol, I will be your utter destruction. Repentance shall be hid from my eyes, just as he went and completely destroyed Egypt as well. So this is the promise. He's going to go in and just wreak havoc on Sheol. And the question is, has this happened? Or if you have a futurist perspective, you're going to say it hasn't happened yet. But I'm going to show you that all through Christian history, up until very recently in history, with probably the Protestants, even the Protestants, a lot of the Protestants believe this as well early on, that Christianity had this idea that the resurrection actually already did happen. The emptying of Sheol was the resurrection. It's cyclical. There's many different times it happens. So this passage here comes now. We're going to look at a couple passages from 2nd Ezra chapter 2. So this says, Yahweh, I brought these people out of bondage. This would be the first Exodus. Okay, so we're going to see the tie because he's planting that thought there. I brought these people out of the first Exodus, and I gave them my commandments by men servants, the prophets, whom they would not hear but despise my counsels. The mother that bore them says unto them, Go your way, ye children, for I am a widow and forsaken. I believe this here is referring to Hakamaha, that would be wisdom, the Ruach HaKodesh. This is the mother of Yasharel. The heathen shall envy you. The heathen would be the Gentiles. The Gentiles keep going down to Sheol all through history. Why are they going to envy the children of the mother of Yasharel? Well, it says right here, but they shall be able to do nothing against you, says Yahuwah. My hand shall cover you so that your children shall not see Sheol. So there's a promise that at some point in history, there will be an ongoing generations of people that will never see Sheol, telling us that it can't be at the end of the time. There will be generations after this that they will never go there. Be joyful, O mother, with your children, for I will deliver you, says Yahuwah. Remember your children that sleep. These are the soul sleepers in Sheol. For I shall bring them out of the sides of the earth and show mercy unto them. For I am merciful, says Yahuwah Sevaoth. That comes from 2 Ezra chapter 2. Well, then we see this scene that happens in Bashara, Matthew, in the Paleo, chapter 27. This is at the crucifixion of Messiah. And immediately, segments of the Makudash were torn into two divisions from above to the bottom. I just love Pamela's translation. It's so epic. And a tumultuous outrage shook Ha-Rats, and the stones were broken open, and the graves were opened, and great ones were rejuvenated in the dust of the red earth and rose up. Now, if that's not a resurrection account, I don't know. I'm done. Now, I asked this question my entire life growing up in the church. Well, if they were resurrected, did they die again? And they're like, yeah. Like, so you're telling me that I can resurrect and I could die again? They're like, no. But it says right there that you're telling me that they died. Yeah. And it's never, how do you know it's not going to happen again? And they can't answer that. Well, I'm here to tell you that these people who resurrected, they didn't die again. Okay, they resurrected onto the earth. They never died again. This is a resurrection event. Therefore, you cannot tell me that there was only one resurrection event. Now, in Revelation, there's, of course, two, right? The first one, the blessing, and the second one. It's better to be the first, but there are others beyond that, all right? The account of the resurrected is now told to us in the Gospel of Nicodemus. So let's start dipping into this. Then Joseph, rising up, this would be Joseph of Arimathea, said to Annas and Caiaphas, these are the two individuals had Messiah put down, ye may be justly under a great surprise that you have been told that Yahusha is alive, or Yeshua, and gone up to heaven. It is indeed a thing really surprising that he should not only himself arise from the dead, but also raise others from their graves who have been seen by many in Jerusalem. Again, we have problems if we're saying that Messiah resurrected eternally, but then he resurrected these other people who just killed them again. Like, that just has never made sense theologically. How can they be the first fruits if they died again? And now hear me a little. We all knew the blessed Simeon, the high priest, who took Yahshua when an infant into his arms in the temple. You guys know the story. Then this same Simeon had two sons of his own, and we were all present at their death and funeral. Go therefore and see their tombs, for these are open, and they are risen, and behold, they are in the city of Arimathea. That's so interesting that these two guys go to Arimathea. This is the same town where Mary the mother would have been taken for a time as well. And of course, Mary Magdalene and Lazarus and the others, spending their time together in offices of devotion. Some indeed have heard the sound of their voices in prayer, but they will not discourse with anyone, but they continue as mute as dead men. I mean, man, this is just like, we always think about like Messiah walking around, but there were all these other dudes, and people are like, so they, it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode in a way, like I could see a Twilight Zone episode where somebody actually comes back from the dead and they're kind of like, there's something wrong with them and everyone's a little freaked out, it's kind of like this here, because they're not talking with anybody. They're like mute men, but the people are reporting that they will go off on their own, and they just want to be in a cod with Elohim. They're truly resurrected, and they just want to speak with him. And they could hear their voices mumbling, but they will not talk to any mortals. But come, let us go to them and behave ourselves towards them with all due respect and caution. And if we can bring them to swear, perhaps they will tell us some of the mysteries of the resurrection. I always get giddy whenever I read about the mysteries. Zora Nicodemus, chapter 12. Nicodemus will, of course, be Nicodemus, who, of course, as you guys know, is the dude in John chapter 3. Now we're skipping ahead to chapter 21. And this is what the two dead men now resurrected have to say. These are the divine and sacred mysteries which we saw and heard. I, Charinus, and Lynthius, these are the sons of Simeon, are not allowed to declare the other mysteries of Elohim, as the archangel Michael ordered us, saying, you shall go with my brethren to Jerusalem, and shall continue in prayers, declaring and glorifying the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach, seeing he hath raised you from the dead at the same time with himself. And you shall not talk with any man, but sit as dumb persons till the time come when Adonai will allow you to relate the mysteries of his divinity. The archangel Michael further commanded us to go beyond Jordan to an excellent and fat country, where there are many who rose from the dead along with us for the proof of the resurrection of Mashiach. Now, this is really interesting here, because on an exoteric level, we could say they're talking about the modern city of Jordan, maybe ancient Edom or whatever, on the other side of the Jordan there. I'm not sure that's what they're talking about here. And they're talking about a fat country. I'm not sure that describes this the country of Jordan back then. I think this is a reference to the blessed land. This is the land east. This is the land, what I call the hidden wilderness. And I think that this is saying this is where they're going to be going. Where there are many who rose from the dead along with us for the proof of the resurrection of Mashiach. For we have only 3 days allowed us from the dead, who arose to celebrate the Passover of our Adonai with our parents. Did you just get that? So this is referencing second Passover. If you blink and you miss it. I missed this for many readings. It wasn't actually till this week when I was preparing this. I'm like, oh, there it is. It was amazing. It was like a godsend. They're coming to celebrate second Passover. They've already missed the first Passover. And they're no longer dead. They're living amazing. So right here, we see a potential reference to the blessed land, the hidden wilderness, the physical land on this earth, beyond the circuits of the sun and the moon, at the very ends of the earth, that no man can travel there. That is what I believe is heaven on earth. I have a whole book on it called The Hidden Wilderness. We see that, we see Passover, and we see the second Exodus all in the same passage right here. This is as much as Elohim allowed us to relate to you. Give you therefore praise and honor to him, and repent, and he will have mercy upon you. Shalom be to you from Adonai Elohim, Yahushua HaMashiach, and the Savior, or the Yeshua of us all. Amen, amen, amen. Now, if I'm skipping ahead here in the narrative, they actually are the ones to testify, and they actually write it on separate pieces of paper. This is kind of a replaying of the book of Susanna, the way you deal with witnesses in the Torah. And so these two guys, they're taking separate rooms, they write down their account, and they give their story, and they bring them together, and they connect. And that's why everybody there, the Sanhedrin and others, they could see that they were telling the truth. That their stories collaborated, and they tell the whole story of how Yahusha went down into Sheol, which I'll be covering a little bit tonight. And after they had made an end of writing, it had written in 2 distinct pieces of paper. Charinus gave what he wrote into the hands of Hanayahu, and this would be Caiaphas, and Gamaliel. Lynthius likewise gave what he wrote into the hands of Nicodemus and Joseph, and immediately they were changed into exceeding white forms and were seen no more. So just like Messiah, these guys had the ability to walk through walls, disappear, rise up, whatever. These were resurrected people just like Messiah. And they're gone. They did not die. They were clearly resurrected. But what they had written was found perfectly to agree, the one not containing one letter more or less than the other. Bezorah Nicodemus, chapter 21. All right. Now I'm going to be jumping over to Nathaniel or Nathaniel. He was promised to see the resurrection. And we read this in John. This is the Hebrew Bezorah Yochanan. You guys know this story. Yeshua Mashiach saw Nathanael, who came there and said, "Whom do you think that truth is from? Man of Yasharel, who is without any deception?" And Nathanael said to him, "How do you recognize me?" And Yeshua answered and said to him, "Before Philip had called you, I saw you under the fig tree." And Nathanael answered and said, "Rabbi, you are the son of Eloah. You are king of Yasharel." And Yeshua answered and said to him, "Are you able to believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than this." And he said to him, "In truth, I say to you that you will see the heavens opened and the messengers of Elohim ascending and descending because of the Son of Man." Now, this is an interesting prophecy because as far as I know in canon, we never see this fulfilled. Now, Nathaniel, I have an older brother named Nathaniel, so I know this. It means gift from El. And the general consensus is that Bartholomew, or Bar Talmai, as he would be known in Hebrew, means son of Talmai, but which means that his name would be Nathanael Bar Talmai, right? He is a gift from El, the son of Talmai. This is why later on the apostle we just see Bartholomew, same guy. So this is what we see in the gospel, or maybe the epistle of Bar Talmai, and it says this. And Bartholomew said, "Adonai, when thou went to be hanged upon the cross, I followed thee afar off and saw thee hung upon the cross, and the angels coming down from heaven and worshiping thee." So right there, they're making a connection that this is the fulfillment of that prophecy. When he's actually seeing Messiah at his lowest point, right? He's bloating in the sun. His inside parts are hanging out and he's covered in blood. He's being mocked and there's darkness, but he's actually seeing him being glorified, interestingly enough, because we'll see what happens. "And when there came darkness, I beheld and I saw thee, that thou were vanished away from the cross." We got some docetism here. "And I heard only a voice in the parts under the earth, and great wailing and gnashing of teeth on a sudden." So he's actually now, in a supernatural sense, able to hear a scene that's going on from Sheol. I almost recall, you guys remember like 10 years ago, it was proven to be a hoax, but supposedly, I'm just assuming it was a hoax, but there was that Russian company that was drilling deep into the earth, and they've only been able to go so far down. And apparently they got like a recorder down there, and they recorded the sounds from they would say hell, but Sheol, and it was a terrible recording if you guys ever heard it. Some people played it back. They're like, no, they were just stolen from this like horror film or whatever. They were just copying the voices, but it's the same thing. If you remember that recording, this is what he's hearing. It's pretty creepy. And he says, "Tell me, Adonai, whither thou went from the cross." So skipping a little ahead, he said, again, Bartholomew said, "Adonai, I saw the angels ascending before Adam and singing praises." So I skipped the part where he said, "Look, I went down and got Adam," and I'll be covering some of that. "But one of the angels, which was very great above the rest, would not ascend up with them. And there was in his hand a sword of fire, and he was looking steadfastly upon thee only. And all the angels besought him that he would go up with them, but he would not." This is a really fascinating scene, because in the early literature that I can find of both the Jewish and Christian, they had this idea that angels had free will and that they could actually disobey orders. We don't think about that with the righteous, the righteous can disobey orders. I mean, they're in danger of doing so. Let's put it that way. They have a free will. When you resurrect from the dead, you will have that free will as well. You will not be a robot. This angel is pissed. And he's looking around, and he's like, he doesn't like what's happening. He doesn't like what the Hebrew or the Jews are doing to the Son of the Most High. And he's like, "I want to kill all of you right now. I want to take all of you out. Like, just let me, please, just let me, and the other angel is like, don't do it. Don't do it. Just come up with us. Obey your orders. He's like, I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it. But when thou did command him to go up, I behold a flame of fire issuing out of his hand and going even into the city of Jerusalem. What's going to happen? And Yahushua said unto him, Blessed art thou, Bartholomew, my beloved, because thou hast seen these mysteries. This is one of the angels of vengeance, which stands before my Father's throne. And this angel sent he unto me. And for this cause, he would not ascend up, because he desired to destroy all the powers of the world. Like, this guy is ready to lay it down. But when I commanded him to ascend up, there went a flame out of his hand and rent asunder the veil of the temple and parted in two pieces for a witness unto the children of Yasharel for my passion, because they crucified me. So that's kind of interesting. That, this is a very early Christian text. Goes completely against modern Protestant thinking that, the reason why the veil was torn was so that we don't have to keep the law anymore. Wrong. No, the veil was actually torn because this vengeful angel wanted to kick ass. He was pretty pissed, and he ripped it asunder with his sword. The only reason he didn't kill people, go on a killing spree, is because Messiah personally went up to him and like, look, just, you're not listening to the others. Just listen to me. I'm telling you right now, this is going to work out. Just please follow the directions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right, so let's look now at, this is once more Bezorah bar Talmai. This is kind of jumping towards the beginning. And Yahushua answered and said, Blessed art thou, Bartholomew, my beloved, because thou saw the mystery. And now I will tell thee all things whatsoever thou ask of me. For when I vanished away from the cross, I went down into Sheol, that I might bring up Adam and all them that were with him. Now, what's important here is that he's saying the primary reason, I can't say the only reason, the primary reason he went down to Sheol and emptied it out was because of a promise he made to Adam. The promise was made to Adam. It was not made to any of us. It was made to Adam. He went there. Adam was his special creation. There were other men on the earth. Yahuwah personally made Adam. He breathed into him. He was the golem, right? That he formed out of the mud, and he breathed life into him. And he wanted to personally redeem Adam. Now, while he was down there, he's like, okay, I'll take all the righteous with me. Obviously, kill two birds with one stone, or actually a bunch of birds with one stone in this instance. But that was his stated purpose. It was the promise made to Adam, nobody else. According to the supplication of Michael the archangel. Then said Bartholomew, Adonai, what was the voice which was heard? Yahushua said unto him, Sheol said unto Beliar. So this voice, this is actually the prince of Sheol. In other place, he's the king of Tartarus. A little Tartary right there. The king of the Tartars. And Sheol said unto Beliar, as I perceive a god or an Elohim cometh hither. And the angels cried into the power, saying, remove your gates, ye princes, remove the everlasting doors, for behold, the King of glory cometh down. Now, I could show you this whole scene plays out in the Gospel of Nicodemus too, but I kind of wanted to show multiple witnesses on this. And Sheol said, who is the King of glory that comes down from heaven unto us? And when I had descended 500 steps, I need to put more focus on that 500 steps. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Why 500? Sheol was troubled, saying, I hear the breathing of the Most High, and I cannot endure it. But the devil, or Hasatan, answered and said, submit not thyself, O Sheol, but be strong, for Elohim himself hath not descended upon the earth. So you see, Satan has it all figured out. Like, look, I tested this guy. Okay, he's not Yahuwah in the flesh. I would know. But when I had descended yet 500 steps, the angels and the powers cried out, take hold, remove the doors, for behold, the King of glory cometh down. And Sheol said, oh, woe unto me, for I hear the breath of Elohim. And Beliar said unto Sheol, look carefully who it is, for it is Elias or Enoch, or one of the prophets that this man seemeth to be. But Sheol answered death and said, not yet are 6,000 years accomplished. This goes into my 7,000 year timeline deception, everybody. And whence, so pay attention to this. But whence are these, O Beliar? For the sum of the number is in mine hands. And we find out that the year is 5,500 and that the millennial kingdom won't start for another 500 years. Simple math, guys. So when people ask me all the time, no, why do you say it started in the 500s? Well, I'm just going off of these books, going off the Greek LXX. I'm going off a bunch of books, and it all says it, So if you want to stick to canon, fine. I see a lot of wisdom and knowledge in these extra biblical books that were cast out by men so that they wouldn't end up in canon. And the devil said unto Sheol, why affrightest thou me, Sheol? It is a prophet, and he hath made himself like unto Elohim. Oh, so this is how Satan thinks of him. He's like, he's making himself out to be more than he really is. And this explains why the Yahudim killed him, because it starts with top management. Like they didn't recognize him because, as Messiah said, you are sons of Satan. You are the seed of Satan. Therefore, he is a liar. He is a murderer. He doesn't get me. You're not going to get it either. This prophet will we take and bring him hither unto those that think to ascend into heaven. So he's saying he's going to, so all these righteous people are there. They're over there. They're dreaming. They're in their soul sleep, but they're thinking they want to get up to heaven. And we'll just throw them in with a lot of them. This is what it says in the first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 31. This is the promise from Yahuwah himself. For I will come and save you, and kings shall bring me when in the flesh. Gold, incense, and myrrh. Gold is a token of my kingdom. Incense is a token of my divinity, and myrrh as a token of my suffering and of my death. But, O Adam, put these things by you in the cave. The gold that it may shed light over you by night. The incense that you may smell its sweet savor, and the myrrh to comfort you in your sorrow. Basically, the idea that he's letting him know, Adam, you're going to die. But I'm going to the promise was I'm going to enter death as a Trojan horse, and I'm going to come and personally draw you out. I'm not going to forget you. Bezor and Nicodemus, jumping back into that book, chapter 15. So this would be the two dudes, the resurrected guys, the sons of Simeon. They are, forgive me for not remembering their names. They're very difficult to pronounce names, but they're giving this testimony here. While all the saints were rejoicing, behold, Satan, the prince and captain of death, said to the prince of Sheol, prepare to receive Yahusha of Nazareth himself, who boasted that he was the son of Elohim, and yet was a man afraid of death. There it is right there. The moment he told them to jump, that's when Satan was like, this guy's afraid. He's immortal. I could take this guy. And again, he was probably in the Garden of Gethsemane on the night he was bleeding blood, right? Or sweating blood. And it's like, this guy's afraid. If this were truly Yahuwah, or whatever your theology is on this, that the Son of God, that he can't possibly be. This cannot be the Son of Elohim that I knew in heaven, that I spoke to. This can't be the same guy. And said, my soul is sorrowful even to death. So now he's referring to the garden. Besides, he did many injuries to me and to many others. For those whom I made blind and lame, and those also whom I tormented with several devils, he cured by his word. Yea, and those whom I brought dead to thee, he by force takes away from thee. So he already knows that there were some people that were resurrected, or I guess being resurrected. These guys were obviously up and conscious at this point. So there was a disturbance down there in the dungeon. Chapter 18. Then the prince of Sheol took Satan, and with great indication said to him, O thou prince of destruction, author of Beelzebub's defeat and banishment, the scorn of Elohim's angels, and loathed by all righteous persons, what inclined thee to act thus? Thou would crucify the King of glory, and by his destruction has made us promises of very large advantages, but as a fool were ignorant of what thou were about. For behold, now that Yahusha of Nazareth, with the brightness of his glorious divinity, puts to flight all the horrid powers of death and darkness. He has broken down our prisons from top to bottom, dismissed all the captives, released all who were bound, and all who were wont formerly to groan under the weight of their torments have now insulted us, and we are like to be defeated by their prayers. By the way, if you're paying attention to that right there, there is an intercession of the saints passage That's a whole, I don't want to trigger anyone right now. That's a whole discussion for another time. That's one of the big confusions when the Orthodoxy talks about the intercession of the saints is a Protestant hears that and they think, oh, they're praying to dead people. They're praying to the saints. No, they're not praying to any saints. They are asking for the prayers of the living, the resurrected. All right. It's kind of like if you ever go to a board online, like a group, like we have the community at TUC, and we have a prayer room, we have prayer requests, and people go in there and say, I request that you pray for me for this condition or whatever, this thing I'm going through. It'd be like if you prayed to Allah Hayam and be like, I really need prayer, Allah Hayam. I really request prayer. And that's what he's saying here, that the Prince of Sheol is like, now these resurrected, we will be defeated by their prayers, meaning they will actively be praying in the resurrected state to defeat the kingdom of darkness. So we have these resurrected saints on our side. They are praying for us. I think that's an exciting thought. I think it's an exciting thought that those who came before us are in heaven thinking about us and recalling us and praying that they're like, you can do this. You can do it. You can run this race. You can conquer. You can defeat evil. You can fight against those temptations. You do not have to give in. Bezor Nicodemus 21 says this. This is a beautiful passage. I've quoted from this so many times. It shouldn't say Adonai there. It should say, then the Lord, then Yahweh, holding Adam by the hand, delivered him to Michael, the archangel, and he led them into paradise filled with mercy and glory. So right there, we're going to have the, at least in this context, we have this is what I'm saying is the second Exodus event. And leading into paradise there, I actually believe that this is also a reference to paradise on earth in the blessed land across the sea. Interesting enough, if I went into the Quran with you, all through the Middle Ages, quote unquote, millennial kingdom, even when you get into the Quran, they have this idea that paradise is a terrestrial place. It is not extraterrestrial, it is terrestrial on this earth. And that the immortals are actually living on the earth. So right here, this is, I've done talks on this a couple years ago now. It's been a while on Hellmouth, and I've shown you a lot of the artwork. What's interesting about, if you can get past the word hell, like I'm at the point where like, it doesn't bother me. For a while there, I'm like, oh, hell, that's not in the Bible, but it's like, whatever, it's whatever. But Sheol, okay, Sheol mouth, if you want to call them that. But they refer to all these illustrations. They're really interesting. They show it to be a living entity down in the earth, like this, almost like this big worm creature that is down, this big hollowed out worm creature that people go into. And it's like, this furnace in there, it's a place of unrest. There we, the sign of the Vesica Piscis right there. This is the sign of the age of Pisces. This is, of course, the architecture of all the Gothic. I've done presentations on that, and you see this everywhere right there. And it's the feminine aspect of God. You can use your imagination on that. Here's more illustrations of demons throwing people into Hellmouth. I'm going to be showing you a passage here that actually shows that Sheol is a living entity. And not only that, as I scroll down, I mean, these are some horrible scenes here. Not a place you want to go. Not only that, this is actually Leviathan. I think there's a connection with Hellmouth and Leviathan. I think Hellmouth is Leviathan. All right, let's get past all this terrible stuff. Gives you nightmares. 3rd Baruch chapter 4 says this. Now, Baruch goes up to the 3rd heaven. And there's a mystery about these things he sees up in heaven. How does he see, in this case, it says Hades, according to this translation, how does he see Hades in the 3rd heaven when it's below the earth, right? So there is some sort of connection going on with these 7 heavens. As we know, there's 7 earths below us too. And there's a connection about, on earth as it is in heaven. And he showed me a plain and a serpent, which appeared to be 200 plethora in length. And he showed me Hades, and its appearance was dark and abominable. And I said, this is in heaven. And who is this dragon? And who is this monster around him? And the angel said to me, the dragon is he who eats the bodies of those who spend their life wickedly. I just showed you a bunch of illustrations about that. Again, this is 3rd Baruch. And he is nourished by them. And this is Hades, which itself also closely resembles him, in that it also drinks about a cubit from the sea, which does not sink at all. So right here, it is attributing Hades to this sea creature on the earth that, probably Hyperborea area, that whirlpool up there that they all talk about, that it kind of creates the tides, that, even those who believe in gravity, was it Isaac Newton who admitted that he was not happy with the one thing that he was not happy with was the moon theory, the idea that it creates the tides, and it doesn't. It's a ridiculous theory that the moon creates tides. So let's look at Leviathan and Hellmouth here. Now, this is coming from Job chapter 41. I'll go ahead and read the whole chapter for you guys. Why not? This is a Bible study, right? So we want to read scripture here. Enjoy it. Be nourished by it. The coffee's going cold. Canst you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which you let loose or let down? Can you put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? That's kind of interesting. Actually, you can make a covenant with death. That's in scripture. You can. I mean, this is kind of rhetorical, but it's not going to be a saving covenant. I'll tell you that right now. Will you take him for a servant forever? He'll take you for a servant forever. It's not a problem. Will you play with him as with a bird, or will you bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay your hand upon him. Remember the battle, and do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up, who then is able to stand before me. Who has prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. So if you can imagine, if you can just picture Hellmouth in all of this, and you can understand that Leviathan here is being depicted as Sheol itself. We could tie this in with Jonah being swallowed by the fish. And I could show you all the illustrations. The earliest illustrations that we have of Jonah, they all depicted a sea serpent, guys. And of course, Jonah says he died and he went down into the earth. So he's in the belly of this fish in the water that comes and swallows him. It opens its mouth, shuts it. He's down under the mountains of the earth. He's in Sheol. Isn't that an interesting connection? His scales are his pride, shut up close as with a closed seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together that they cannot be sundered. By his sneezing, a light does shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. And it's, this idea, fire breathing dragon, of course, but, obviously there is fire inside of Leviathan. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remains strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. The sword of him that lays at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteems iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laughs at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreads sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like. Who is made without fear? He beholds all things. He is king over all the children of pride. Isn't that interesting? That is really interesting right there, that he actually rules over all the children of pride. And you might be asking, how does this mythological Leviathan creature, which apparently doesn't exist anymore, rule over all the children of pride? Well, I've given you the answer to that. And I will point out, not going to do a study on this tonight, that I do believe the sea serpent is a legitimate thing. A couple of years ago, I read a 3-part series, given all the reports, the newspaper reports going way back when, of these sightings of sea serpents. And they seem to emerge right after the millennial kingdom, right in the 1500s. They're in the science journals. People say they all exist. I have an original print on my wall. It's actually tucked away right now. And interestingly enough, they all kind of went away by the late 1800s. The last report I saw of a sea serpent was, I think, in Boston in the 1970s. It was seen by a good amount of people. But I feel like there's some sort of connection with sea serpents to the Leviathan, but I do not believe sea serpents are Leviathan. Like what this just described right here, there is no sea serpent that is ever described that way. People try to kind of make that work, and it doesn't work. This Leviathan is clearly a king over men, and the idea that you cannot open its mouth. And this is what Messiah did, guys. He went down and he broke open the gates. He broke open the teeth of Leviathan. Nobody else could do that. He alone did that. All right, this is a fun little side note here. Leviathan and Lord of the Rings. Yes, it was a awful show. Sorry, John Q. I mean, it was fun. There was some fun elements. Yeah, I was woke as can be. The second season was incredibly boring. The first was okay. But there was this really interesting plot line going on in there, and that actually plays into Leviathan. So I just want to go over this really quickly. You have these two characters, Mariel and Elendil, and Elendil is right there. You can see the two of them together. They're called leaders of the faithful. And the reason why they're leaders of the faithful is that they remained loyal to the Valar. Now, the Valar, they're the angelic powers or the gods, the Elohim of Tolkien lore, and they're subordinate to the one Allahayam and live in the Undying Lands. I mean, the Undying Lands. So in the Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, there is a literal blessed land. This is where the elves go, where the immortals live, the righteous, right? When Gandalf died, he went to the blessed land. He went to the Undying Lands, and then he came back resurrected. So they are faithful to the divine council, all right, as Sauron is rising up to take over. Now, they live over this Atlantis society, and this is, of course, what sinks into the sea. And they are judged as traitors. Of course, they're the only people they're going against is Sauron, but they are judged as traitors for being loyal to the Valar, and they are sentenced. She, in particular, is sentenced to go into the water and be swallowed by the fish, the Leviathan, and this is him right there. So this Leviathan creature comes up to swallow her and eat her. And the test is that if she is a transgressor, if she is truly a traitor, as they are claiming, that Leviathan will eat her or swallow her. But if not, he will be the judge and he will let her alone. It's called the Numenor Tarsis. I'm sorry. Numenor is the island right there. But anyways, they go to war against the Undying Lands, the Blessed Realm. This is the story of the Millennial Kingdom and all that. I've covered that before. Anyways, it doesn't eat her. It leaves her alone, which is kind of cool. I think that's her right there. She comes right up and looks at her and swims away, and she lives to see another day. Kind of cool little story right there. I've already pointed this out here, this really badass picture that I want to frame on my wall. the lance of Longinus, getting speared in Sheol. He goes down, and I hear you guys have heard that Mel Gibson wants to make a Passion of the Christ 2. I think it's like in pre-production or whatever, and he has promised that it's going to be has sci-fi elements to it, which I think what he's referring to is Dante. Dante is referred to the first science fiction novel. I think that's what he means. But yeah, I guess it's going to be like 2 hours of Yeshua going down there and raising hell, literally raising hell for just 2 straight hours, just spearing demons and stuff. So I don't know. I'll be honest. He already has. I'll give him my money. Like he's got my ticket. I'll go see it. Sounds awesome. And one of the things we see often, I'm not going to do a study tonight on the rod of Moses or the rod of power, the rod of Yahweh. I have covered this before. I have a whole paper on it, which you can read on my website. And I'm convinced that this is the same rod that Moses had. This is the rod we see with Revelation. I think it's the same rod that Joseph of Arimathea took over to Britain, which he is accounted as having. It would be a miraculous rod. But this is what he emerged from the tomb with, which indicating that he would have been buried with it. And we read this in Bezorah Kepha. When therefore, this would be the gospel of Peter. When therefore these soldiers saw it, they awakened the centurion and the elders. And so in this story, in the gospel of Peter, actually the Jews are actually there in the garden as well, because they want to make sure this guy doesn't walk out of this grave. Where they too were hard by keeping guard. And as they declared what things they had seen, again, they saw 3 men come forth from the tomb, and 2 of them supporting the one. So the picture that's been given here is that there's 2 angels holding up Messiah. Like he's resurrected, but it's kind of interesting that they're, I don't necessarily see it as him being like weak, but maybe it's more like a elevation, but they're holding him up. And it said, and a cross was following them. And I kind of think that this was maybe a better way is to describe it as a tav or a lance. I kind of think this is what it's describing, that this was what was following him, coming behind him. This would have been perhaps the rod that Moshe carried with him. Anyways, and they heard a voice from the heavens saying that everybody there at the garden, you have preached to them that sleep in Sheol, and a response was heard from the cross itself, yea. Bezorah Kepha 22 through 23. Here's more depictions of it here. This is, of course, Messiah now. So I showed you before the horrific scenes of Hellmouth, and this is him breaking open the jaws of Leviathan, the teeth, and going in and bringing out the righteous. It's interesting that it picks them all naked. In every picture, they're all naked. That's really interesting, because you're not giving your white robes until you go to heaven. That is interesting. Well, okay, I guess there's some there. They have robes. But most of them, they're naked. So there's your 2 exceptions right there. I love this here. How he's like he's like stepping on a demon. That's pretty funny. All right. Here's another one here. It looks like he actually like impaled him in the mouth. Well, this is the promise that was told to Job in Job or Job chapter 19. Actually, I'm assuming it was told to Job. This is what Job declares, knowing that it is true. And he says, as for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will take his stand on the earth. Even after my skin is destroyed, yet from my flesh I shall see Allahayam, whom I myself shall behold, and whom my eyes will see, and not another. My heart faints within me. Now, if you take this from the futurist perspective, you'd say this scene hasn't happened yet. But he's saying that when he takes his stand on the earth, this is Messiah coming in his first ministry, going down to Sheol, being a Trojan horse. This is when Job would have woken up with the others, and he beholds him just as he declared and prophesied. And going back to Bezorah Nicodemus, this is really exciting because this is what the 2 resurrected are talking or reporting, giving witness to. What they saw is everybody is waking up, and all these voices in the darkness are starting to commune with each other. And while Satan and the prince of Sheol were discoursing thus to each other, on a sudden there was a voice as of thunder and the rushing of winds, saying, Lift up your gates, O ye princes, and be ye lifted up, O everlasting gates, and the King of glory shall come in. When the prince of Sheol heard this, he said to Satan, depart from me and be gone out of my habitations. If thou art a powerful warrior, fight with the King of glory. But what hast thou to do with him? And he cast him forth from his habitations. And the prince said to the impious officers, shut the brass gates of cruelty and make them fast with iron bars and fight courageously, lest we be taken captives. I mean, come on, you're imagining this right now in a Mel Gibson movie. I mean, like think of Braveheart, but William Wallace going against like an army of devils. I mean, come on, this is gonna be awesome. But when all the company of the saints heard this, they spoke with a loud voice of anger to the prince of Sheol. Now, keep in mind, they're all waking up out of their soul sleep. They're in total darkness, and they can't do anything. They're not raising up to fight right now. I see no indication of that. And they say, open thy gates that the King of glory may come in. And the divine prophet David cried out, saying, did not I, when on earth, truly prophesy and say, oh, that men would sing praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he hath broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. He hath taken them because of their iniquity, and because of their unrighteousness they are afflicted. Now again, keep in mind that they are accrediting the God of Israel, Yahweh or Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahweh, however you want to pronounce that, to Jesus Christos himself, Yahshua. After this, another prophet, namely Holy Yeshayahu, this is Isaiah, spoke in like manner to all the saints. Did not I rightly prophesy to you when I was alive on earth? The dead men shall live, and they shall rise again who are in their graves, and they shall rejoice who are in earth. So Isaiah is accrediting the resurrection of him to be happening right then, not in another later date. For the dew which is from Yahweh shall bring deliverance to them. And I said in another place, O death, where is thy victory? O death, where is thy sting? When all the saints heard these things spoken by Isaiah, they said to the prince of Sheol, open now thy gates, and take away thine iron bars, for thou wilt now be bound and have no power. Then there was a great voice, as of the sounding of thunder, saying, lift up your gates, O princes, and be ye lifted up, ye gates of Sheol, and the King of glory will enter in. The prince of Sheol, perceiving the same voice repeated, cried out as though he had been ignorant, who is that King of glory? And David replied to the prince of Sheol and said, I understand the words of that voice, because I spoke them by his Ruach. And now, as I have above said, I say unto thee, Yahuwah strong and powerful, Yahuwah mighty in battle, he is the King of glory, and he is Yahuwah in heaven and in earth. He that looked down to hear the groans of the prisoners, and to set loose those that are appointed to death. And now, thou filthy and stinking prince of Sheol, open thy gates, that the King of glory may enter in, for he is Yahweh of heaven and of earth. And while David was saying this, El Elyon appeared in the form of a man and enlightened those places which had ever before been in darkness, and broke asunder the fetters which before could not be broken, and with his invincible power visited those who sat in the deep darkness by iniquity, and the shadow of death by sin. That comes from chapter 16. All right. So let's get back now. Let's try to tie this up and maybe take a little bit of a peek over the hidden wilderness, see what's going on over there. Second Passover and second Exodus, I started talking about this. I'm not going to read this again, particularly for lack of time. You guys can, if you have forgotten already, you can either read Numbers 9 for yourself or go back to the beginning of the video. I do want to address right here, since I did bring it up earlier, that I'm going to focus tonight specifically on the dead body. Now, in the sense of being far off on a journey, one of the philosophical or theological questions that comes up is, if we cannot go to Jerusalem, should we be keeping Passover? Maybe we should be keeping second Passover. I told you at the beginning of this presentation, that's up for you. I can't tell you what to do. You need to be able to read scripture and decide the best you can to keep the commands. I myself believe we can keep first Passover because we are the temple, right? We are the living stones. We are New Jerusalem come down. We are the stones that make up the holy city. And and Christians tell me all the time that, they don't have to keep the Torah anymore because the temple's done away with. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you're not a temple then. I mean, like, I thought we were supposed to be a temple. I thought we were, and they're like, well, we don't have to keep sacrifices anymore. I'm like, well, I thought we were supposed to be a living sacrifice, I guess that's done away with too. Whatever. But because you are a temple, you are a living embodiment, a living stone. You are New Jerusalem. I believe that it works both ways. I do think there is a brick and mortar renewed Jerusalem, an actual physical city. I see tons of evidence for that. But I also think on a more esoteric level, that's the exoteric explanation. On a more esoteric level, I do believe we are also New Jerusalem. So you are, even though we are technically in the diaspora, wherever we are, there are little menorahs all over the world. These lights that are these little synagogues, and we can keep it. That's my take on it. So, of course, interestingly enough, the second Exodus lines up with a Passover event. The Last Supper, of course, was Passover. I'm going to be reading you, just so you guys know, I'm going to be spending a little bit of time showing you that there were actually different Passover events at the time Messiah was crucified. So this comes from Book of the Illuminators, one of my all-time favorites. The British knew how to tell a Bible story, let me tell you. On the first day of the festival, when lambs were being sacrificed, the Talmudim, those would be the disciples, came to Yeshua and asked where the Pesach meal should be eaten. That's a Passover. Now he goes through the explanation there, and he says, Now the house belonged to Obed, who was nigh 80 years of age, whose brother was Barnabas the elder. So this is telling you right now that Nathaniel, or Bar Talmai, Nathaniel Bar Talmai, this was his brother's house in Jerusalem. That's kind of interesting. In an upper room, the Talmudim prepared the Pesach meal. And then we read once again, after he had taken his place at the table and all were seated, Yeshua said, I have very much wanted to keep this Pesach, this Passover with you, because it is last before my ordeal. Now, so capiche, we all understood. Last Supper is Passover. If there's any questions out there, now some of you might be asking, well, how can it be the Passover if the Passover wasn't the next day, Noel? Explain that to me. Well, I'm glad you asked, because I am about to explain it to you. But let's finish this right here. And he says, and I tell you, I will not share another with you until my purpose is fulfilled. So you mean he's still going to be keeping Passover again? That's kind of interesting. Apparently Passover wasn't done away with. I mean, Messiah didn't get the memo. So for all the people out there saying they don't have to keep Passover, you might be a little disappointed when you find out that, just letting you know that he keeps Passover. So, but unfortunately, not everyone kept the same Passover. We read this also in the Book of Illuminators, chapter 24. It was now for many Pesach Eve. Wait a second. I thought, see, this is verse 34. Wait, what? This is verse 21. Then we go to 34. So this is a little confusing now, because Messiah just kept Passover, and now the other Jews, they haven't kept Passover yet. No, and it says right here, not all keeping it at the same time, for this was in dispute. This sounds a lot like the 21st century. Amazing. I see so many Torah people, like they almost like they romanticize it. If they could just go back to the first century, they'd have all their questions answered. No, you wouldn't actually. And you're gonna actually see it's like even Messiah's disciples, they didn't keep the same day. So he came for like one hot minute and he kept the right day, and then like nobody knows right what the right day is. Now that is not an excuse not to keep it, and I'll hopefully explain why. But therefore, many who could have spoken for Yeshua, being righteous men, went to make their preparations for the festival. There it is right there. So it's saying that these guys were followers of Messiah. They were righteous men. Okay, righteous. There's the key word. They kept it on the wrong day, but their heart was in the right place. They were righteous. So for all the, speaking to if any Torah terrorists do happen, usually the Torah terrorists get triggered watching my stuff and they leave. They leave some rude comments and they watch one or two videos and then they leave. But if you are a Torah terrorist, if you have like a Torah terrorist like card, you're like part of the membership of the Torah terrorist underground organization that infiltrates all the different groups. I just wanted to let you know that you can actually be on the wrong calendar and still be righteous. Like that's apparently that's not the test, because if it was the test of righteousness, I think he would have made it a little bit clearer, and none of us can really agree. So keep the Passover, guys. Just come to your best deductive argument, the best you can, and show mercy and grace to others, realizing that you're probably on the wrong calendar. Just if there's like 30 different calendars out there, chances are, and they all, everyone thinks they're on the right calendar. They're all convinced they have done the sleuth work, and they're all convinced. Chances are 29 out of the 30 are incorrect. All right. So let's show each other mercy and love. All right. And then we see this with Pilate. So now Messiah is, we jump from verse 34 to verse 79 of chapter 24. Pilate says this: "You are a perverse race." He's not speaking to Messiah. He actually really liked Messiah. He's speaking to the Jews. He said, "You're a perverse race, over concerned with unworldly things and ensnaring yourselves in your own net of goodness." He's actually speaking to the card-carrying Torah terrorists. Was it actually an organization back then as well? And that's who he's speaking to. You cannot even agree on the dates of your own festivals or the nature of your Elohim. So, ouch. Pilate's like criticizing them because he's watching like in horror. Is like back in Rome, like we kind of like keep the same festivals. Everyone's in agreement. I'm here in this like backwater town in Jerusalem having to deal with you guys, and you just like argue over names and dates. Just like modern website chat room. It's amazing. Nothing has changed in 2,000 years. So let's look at the burial of Yahshua here, and we see two men primarily burying him: Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. It's getting to that point of the night where it's like, I'm like, what is my next word? How do I end the next sentence? So just bear with me here. I'm going to try to get through this. And I have a lot more to cover. But the question is did Nicodemus and did Joseph of Arimathea keep Passover? Because if they did not keep it with Messiah, they could not keep the one with the Jews now, because they have just become unclean burying a dead man. And it says in John, this is reading from the Gospel of John, it was preparation day for Passover, and it was about noon. Now, just to let you know, I'm not going to read the whole passage. John does specifically say that it was not right here, but you have to read a little bit in another area, that it was Passover of the Jews. He specifically says of Jews. He's talking to Judaism, and John is very pro-Torah, but he's not including himself in Judaism. And so that's just there to look for. We know that Joseph of Arimathea was present at the council on the night that he was betrayed. It says, now one of the elders of the Supreme Council was a man named Josias, called Joseph of Arimathea, son of Joachim. Joachim, by the way, or Joachim, happened to be Mary, the Virgin Mary's father. So right there, we may actually have, instead of being his great uncle, he may actually be his uncle. He may be the Virgin Mary's brother, if that is the same Joachim. And it says right here that he had been president of the council when it sat in judgment on Yahusha. So was he celebrating Passover? Because if he was celebrating the Passover Messiah, he shouldn't have been, I don't know, going out. Maybe he did it out of an emergency. I don't really know. We see the same thing here. Nicodemus was at the council. Then a man named Nicodemus said to Yahusha, this is still chapter 24, the Torah does not condemn any man without trying to understand his motives. Tell us why you do these things. Of course, remember now, he's a secret admirer and follower of Messiah. He's trying to prop him up here. And Yahusha answered, is it not written that if the people are to be saved, there must be a suffering deliverer who will also be the anointed of Elohim? In which Nicodemus says to the council, if this man is what he claims, he's harmless, for he brings suffering to none except himself. He's trying to, get him off the hook, right? But they're not going to have it. All right. I love this picture. I just love it, love it, love it. This idea that Messiah is coming down into Sheol, and you see all the people. He's like the light that's coming in, and all the people are just, it's an interesting picture when you think about it, because you see babies in here and like old people, young people, all people in their own state of life. Now, I'm going to ask you, let me just read this passage first, and then I'm going to ask you a question that I want you to think about. This comes from Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah chapter 23. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when they shall no longer say, as Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Yashua out of the land of Mitzrayim. I know we read this earlier. But as Yahuwah lives, who brought up and led the seed of the house of Yashrael out of the north country and out of the countries where he had driven them, then they shall dwell in their own land. Now, I'm just going to ask you, so a lot of, if you're kind of a futurist, a lot of the futurists reside on a very exoteric explanation that we're dealing explicitly with the land of Israel, and that, you know, the Jewish people. I was struggling there trying to figure out what I should say. The wink, wink, it's not something in my eye. Like literally wink, wink, the Jewish people are in the land of Israel right now. And somehow they're like holding it hostage, and, you know, somehow like the second Exodus is going to happen, and all the Hebrews and the Shebrews are going to, you know, all these, like, the seas will be parted all across the world, and they're all going to walk into the land of Israel through the Mediterranean. And like, I'm sorry, I don't see that. This land that it's talking about, I believe, is paradise. It is the land that was set aside for the righteous, because Yahuwah had a backup plan. He knew that the land that was originally given to Abraham was going to be soiled to the point that they would be divorced, and once they're divorced from the land, they can't come back. All right. So he had to have a backup plan of the true land that Abraham was truly looking for. And I will ask you, if you were in this situation right here, you are in Sheol, in total darkness. You notice here that they're not in flames, right? They're not in torment, but it looks like a very unpleasant situation. They probably were a little stinky, smelly, you know, maybe some lice, you know, worms, you know, all sorts. They're waking up and they see Yahuwah himself in the flesh coming down to take them, and he takes Adam by the hand and he raises him up, and they go up to paradise. He takes out the demons, he smashes the iron gates, and he takes them up to heaven or to paradise. You tell me which Passover event you're going to remember more. I'm like, there were people there in that room who were in the original Passover, and I'm sure they probably took notes. Like, okay, like, you were there. Which one is better? Oh yeah, by far, being freed from Sheol was like way, way better than coming out of Egypt. Now, this is going to be upsetting to some, but I just want everyone to really think about this. You look at the history of the church, and what is the one thing the church holds up? It's actually in this picture. There's a clue, like the Where's Waldo in here. It's a clue. What's the one thing they hold up that overpowers the first Passover event? It is the Tav, the cross. No, it is not a pagan symbol. It's actually a symbol of life. The Romans said it was a symbol of death, but the ancients said it was a symbol of life. And it's not pagan at all. It's even in the Paleo alphabet. Yeah, so right there is what I'm telling you. Second Passover, second Exodus event. And let's keep reading. This is what it says in, again, Bezorah Nicodemus. Then, well, I read this for you earlier. Then, but it's worth repeating. Then Yahuwah, holding Adam by the hand, delivered him to Michael the angel, and he led them, plural, the saints, into paradise filled with mercy and glory. And there's the resurrection event right there. So I will ask this, Hebrews 11, was Abraham seeking the blessed land, the hidden wilderness, the undying lands, according to Tolkien lore? By faith, he, Abraham, lived as a stranger in the land of promise. So that's kind of interesting. As in a foreign land, living in tents with Yitzhak and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise, for he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is Elohim. By faith, even Sharaha herself received the ability to conceive even beyond the proper time of life, since she considered him faithful who had promised. Now, I will point out here that it is interesting. The following thought is Sarah giving birth through miracle intervention from Yahweh himself. And so you can kind of see the exoteric and esoteric here. The exoteric is that he is literally looking for New Jerusalem, the brick and mortar. But then the following thought is that the people would come through Sarah, the promise. These would be the living stones. So there's a little bit of both being played right here, I think. But then we get this wonderful, beautiful passage from Odes of Solomon right here. I will tell you that during the quote-unquote wink-wink Middle Ages, the early and the late, this was a favorite. This book was so popular, it has been found all over the world, telling us surviving copies. And it is accredited to Solomon. Now, the historians will say that this was not actually written until Christian era. And so you will be asking me, well, how can that be, Noel? How could Solomon have actually written this book? Well, I'm going to give you the answer just by reading this. And what was going through the heads of those who actually read this book and accredited this to Solomon. I extended my hands and approached my Adonai, for the expansion of my hands is his sign. What is the expansion? This is the Tav. It's like a big old bear hug, I think. And then it says right here, and my extension is the upright cross. So treat your fellow Hebrews and Shebrews with the sign of Adonai, which is the upright cross, big old hug that was lifted up on the way of the righteous one. And I became useless to those who knew me not, because I shall hide myself from those who possess me not, and I will be with those who love me. Now, this is describing amazingly what I believe is the little season that he kind of got up and left. But all my persecutors have died, and they sought me, they who declared against me, because I am living. So this is actually from the perspective right now of Messiah himself. Messiah is the author of this. Yahshua is the author of this particular ode. He is saying that he was dead and now he's alive. Then I arose and am with them, and will speak by their mouths, for they have rejected those who persecute them. And I threw, excuse me, and I threw over them the yoke of my love. Like the arm of the bridegroom over the bride, so is my yoke over those who know me. And as the bridal chamber is spread out by the bridal pair's home, so is my love by those who believe in me. I was not rejected, although I was considered to be so, and I did not perish, although they thought it of me. And here it is right here. Sheol saw me and was shattered, and death ejected me, and many with me. This is the prophecy of past tense of Sheol being emptied out in Hosea and 2nd Ezra. I had been vinegar and bitterness to it, and I went down with it as far as its depth. Then the feet and the head it released, because it was not able to endure my face. And I made a congregation of living among his dead, and I spoke with them by living lips, in order that my word may not be unprofitable. And those who had died, this is the most beautiful picture. I just love this, just imagining these throngs of people in Sheol just running as fast as they can with him, open arms, saying Yeshua or Yahshua, just, salvation, my king. And those who had died ran towards me, and they cried out and said, Son of Elohim, have pity on us, and deal with us according to your kindness, and bring us out from the bonds of darkness, and open for us the door by which we may come out to you, for we perceive that our death does not touch you. Interesting perception. And if you guys, did this video will eventually be dated, but if you saw the one last night where we talked about, what did we talk about? Vampires. We talked about vampires. And we talked about the covenant of the threshold covenant. And it's kind of interesting here, Messiah says, I stand at the door and knock. And of course, with evil spirits, you have to invite them in, hence the threshold covenant. And they're actually saying here that open for us the door by which we may come out to you. That's kind of interesting, right? So they can cross the threshold to him. May we also be saved with you, because you are our Yeshua, our Savior, our salvation. Then I heard their voice and placed their faith in my heart. And I placed my name upon their head because they are free and they are mine. Hallelujah. Odes of Solomon 42. So there's other odes in Solomon where other people who identify as being in Sheol and resurrected are writing it. And so I asked the question, did a resurrected Solomon actually write this? I think that's this is attributing a Messiah, and Odes is Messiah, so why not Solomon as well? And it's very simply written. This was written to the pews, to the layman. It was written very simply. It wasn't written to be very complex. I've already shown you this here. Here's Messiah coming out with his lance, or his I should say his rod, but on top of it is an ensign. And with a lot of these, you can see that it actually has the sign of St. George on it, the red taw, which was also used by the Knights Templar. So something going on there for sure. Isaiah 11 says this, and he will lift up a flag for the nations and assemble the banished ones of Israel, and will gather the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. That could be a reference to the 500s when Elijah showed up, and very likely could be. But a lot of people will attribute this to the second Exodus account. Thought it'd be worth pointing out. Amos 9 says this, behold, days are coming, declares Yahweh, when the plowman will overtake the reaper, and the one who treads grapes will overtake him who sows the seed, when the mountains will drip grape juice. Wait, what kind of translation is this? I think this is an NASB. The grape. Okay, what? That's kind of funny. They will drip grape juice. They will drip Welch's, everybody. They will bottle Welch's grape juice. And all the hills will come apart. I will also restore the fortunes of my people Yasharel, and they will rebuild the desolated cities and live in them. They will also plant vineyards and drink their wine, and make gardens and eat their fruits. I will also plant them on their lands, and they will not be uprooted again from their land, which I have given them, says Yahuwah your Allahika. Now, or your, it could be your Allahayam. Now, pointing out here, this could be the 500s. This could be a reference to the beginning of the millennial kingdom. But again, when it's talking about their land, that they will not be uprooted again, I don't think this is talking about the historical land of Israel. We can go into the whole divorce story here. I actually do think that this is talking about, once again, the blessed land. And I'll give you a little bit more evidence for that. This comes from Zechariah. The next one is where it's really going to hit home, but let's read this one first. And I will strengthen the house of Yehudah, and I will save the house of Yosef, and I will bring them back because I have had compassion on them. Remember, they say, have mercy on us, have compassion on us. And they will be as though I had not rejected them. Why were they rejected, right? They went to Sheol. For I am Yahweh your Allahayam, and I will answer them. Zechariah chapter 10. And this is the one I love. This comes from, I do love this one. This is not the one I was thinking, though. But this is a new passage where I have never read this to you before. Hopefully this Tuesday, come back. I want to read you the entire epic medieval poem, The Phoenix. It is so amazing. And for you Tolkien fans out there, pay attention to what I'm about to say. So this is from The Phoenix, lines 1 and 8. The Phoenix is 6 books. Very epic. I have learned that there is the best of lands far from here. This is talking about the hidden wilderness, the blessed land, the undying lands, and eastern places according to the reports of men. So the idea is that this is actually east of Eden. This corner of the world cannot be reached by folk rulers, meaning that mortals cannot, no matter how hard you try, whatever your tech is, you cannot go there. It is beyond the circuit of the sun and the moon. It's beyond the ice wall. It's way out there. Many across Middle Earth, for it is withdrawn beyond them. The sin maker is by the might of the measurer. Lovely is this whole land. So how awesome is that, guys? We all live in Middle Earth. So for all you Lord of the Rings fans out there, it's not just a place of fantasy. According to the medievalist, we live in Middle Earth. That's all Tolkien was doing. He was contrasting the undying lands with what they're calling right here the best of lands. And it's just saying we live in that Middle Earth. It's a millennial kingdom story, guys. Blessed with joys and with the fairest odors of the earth, unique is that well-watered realm, noble that right, and abounding in might, he who established the ground. That says prow there. I skipped that, but that comes from line 1 through 8 of the Phoenix. Now let's jump ahead to lines 393 through 423. I guarantee you there's plenty of good stuff in the middle. Obviously, I'm not going to cover it all tonight. We have learned that the Almighty made man and woman through the fullness of his wonder, and they were then established in that best corner of the earth that the children of men call Paradise Plain. So, according to the, I know like modern archaeology says that it was right there kind of in the, Iraq, Eden was in that Iraq region of the world. It might have been, but according to this, it's saying that originally Adam and Eve, man and woman, they were in the furthest corner of the earth, not in the center, but in the furthest corner. And this is where paradise was. And they were ejected from it. And because Yahuwah had needed his plan, he set up the substitute land of Israel to fulfill his plan. But the ultimate plan was to get everybody back to this terrestrial paradise. So that the children of men call Paradise Plain, where there was no want of prosperity, while the word of the eternal, his holy commandment, would be kept in the newness of their joy. Their hatred harmed them. The malice of their olden foe, who offered them, eats the fruit of the tree, which they both ate, with ill counsel over the mercy of Elohim. This is the Adam and Eve story, in case you're unaware. And they tasted the forbidden apple. Dun, dun, dun. So we have a divergence from grapes. Kind of interesting. I take notes of all of that. I like to point that out. I almost think that there's like these two parallels, almost dimensional parallels happening here. I almost think that the apple story is true and the grape story is true. That'll be a different discussion some other time. I'm taking notes on it. Anyways, Adam and Eve, they tasted the forbidden apple, and their misery became bitter for them after the eating, and for their hearts, a grievous feast for their sons and daughters. Their busy teeth were terribly punished after their guilt. They held the wrath of God, a bitter and baleful sorrow. Afterwards, their child paid for their sorrow. This is Cain and Abel. They who accepted the morsel over the word of the eternal. Therefore, they must forsake sad-minded the joys of home through the spite of the serpent when it deceived closely our forefathers in days of old by its guileful heart, so that they sought a dwelling far thence. And this is going back to Abraham, right? He's really seeking for the far off land, because in the valley of death, a sorrowful home. This is where they go, to the shadow of the valley of death. This is this is the outer darkness, guys. We're in the outer darkness. A better life was hidden from them in shadow. And that holy plain was closed up fast by the enemy's wiles for many winters, until the glory king, the joy of mankind, comforter of the weary, and our only hope, opened it up again for the holy by his coming hither. So that's the Phoenix lines 393 through 423. Again, that'll be a whole study in itself. I just wanted to show you the agreement here that maybe it doesn't agree on the apple versus the grapes, but it agrees that that when Messiah came, his mission was to take us out of the outer darkness, where all the wicked will remain, of course, and bring us back to terrestrial paradise on this earth. And this is let's talk about this, entering the land. We're going to be closing on this thought tonight. I'm going a little bit over tonight. Thank you all for your patience. Entering the land, the mysteries of the kingdom. The Torah is written for every generation. All right. So when you read a passage like this is coming from Dabar, this is Deuteronomy. A lot of people are going to read this and go, how does this apply to me? Well, I'm going to show you how this applies to you. Hopefully a lot of you will kind of just pick up on it. And it shall exist in your coming toward the land which Yahuwah your Allah gives unto you as inheritance. This is speaking to the wilderness generation. They're out in the wilderness. They haven't crossed the Jordan yet to that fat land, as the resurrected dude said when he crossed the Jordan. And you shall possess her, and you will settle down to dwell in her, and you shall take from the firstlings of all the fruit of the red ground, which you will bring from your land, which Yahuwah your Allah shall give to you in a basket. And you will walk toward the place of habitation, which Yahuwah your Allah shall choose to cause his name to settle down to dwell there. And you have come toward the priest, which shall exist in those days. That's really interesting because we know who our priest is, our high priest, our Melchizedek priest, Yeshua. And you have declared toward him conspicuously in the sight of all, I proclaim this day unto Yahuwah your Allahah, that I have come toward the land which Yahuwah our fathers has given unto us. So what's going to happen? Of course, we know he's the sheep gate, right? You can only come in through him. And we will have to go up to our high priest when this is why I'm saying the Torah is for all generations. Yes, I don't think anybody here listening, I don't know, but I'm under the impression, given there's 2,000 years before us, that none of us are going to be in a mass exodus to go into the modern land of Israel. However, we will all die, and we will approach this land, this blessed land. We will be approaching paradise, and we will have to go up to the sheep gate. We will go to our high priest, and we will proclaim to him that day that we will walk in a covenant with him. We will obey his commands. And if we choose not to obey his commands, we can turn away. And I actually think many people will. I think a lot of people might get there and go like, yeah, not interested. I like my lawless Protestantism a lot better. I'll just go wherever Protestant land is and try to make the best out of it. Ezekiel says this, which I love. I love this. As I live, declares Yahuwah Allahayam. This is a second Exodus passage, in case you're unaware. Surely with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and with wrath poured out, I will be king over you. I will bring you out from the peoples and gather you out of the countries where you are scattered with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and with wrath poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. This is one of the reasons I call, one of the many reasons I refer to as the hidden wilderness. It's a place that it's a wilderness of, obviously can't find on a map. And there I will enter into judgment with you face to face, as I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness and land of Mitzrayim. So I will enter into judgment with you, declares Yahuwah Allahayam. And by the way, I do think this is ongoing. I will make you pass under the rod. There's that rod that we saw him coming out of the tomb with. And I will bring you into the bond of the covenants. So people are coming up to him, this rod, and you have to pass under this rod. When you pass under that rod, you are saying, I agree to your Torah. I agree to your commandments. I will keep them. But not everyone will, because look at this. I will purge out the rebels from among you and those who transgress against me. That's such a sad picture that some people are going to make it that far and they're still going to choose to disobey, and they're going to be kicked out. I will bring them out of the land where they sojourn, but they shall not enter the land of Yasharel. Then you will know that I am Yahuwah. So some people will be taken out of their captivity, but not going to make it to the end. I'm going to skip all these. This is called Fulfilled Promises. We know it happens. There's a lot of great passages here, but for lack of time, not going to cover it. Let's do this again next week, guys. I love doing this, and I hope you guys are feeling, getting something out of this. That's my hope, anyways. I hope you guys are feeling blessed and that you're learning and staying strong in Messiah. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Hey, Polyhart here. Was calling my dad this morning, wishing him a Happy New Year, and he said, "Hey, Happy New Year back, son." And he was listening to Alexander Scornaby read the book of Ezekiel on audiobook, and I was like, that's awesome. I love listening to good translations, but the thing is, with a lot of times when I go to research biblical translations, I want to look up a passage, I want to see what the original Hebrew says, and I want to see what the real meaning is behind it, and I can't find a lot of good translations out there. I go to BibleHub.com, 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 and I go there and I'll look at each word and find out what the best solution is to this verse. If I want to try to look at something in the context of something else. Really interesting stuff. My friend Pamela Glasgow is translating the entire Bible into the PaleoHebrew, the first written language of the Hebrews. It was Paleo. It was like a pictorial language. It's not only spelt and built, it's it's a unique pictorial language, kind of like the Chinese or Japanese or Korean is a pictorial language, as well as a said language and a spelt language. When you add a different thing to the end, it creates the entire idea from the beginning, makes it a new idea. So PaleoHebrew, really impactful, and we are raising money for her to do that for a full-time job / business / career / ministry. And Noel Hadley with the unexpectedcosmology.com is leading the charge on getting her translations out to the world. So below, I'm going to list a link on how you can give to see the PaleoHebrew Bible come to its full fruition. Also, she's got some of the Bible, I believe all the Torah, and some of the Psalms are being done now. It's a continual work, but I'm excited. It's going to be spectacular. So how you can help this come to pass is by your financial gift, your giving to Pamela, so that she can continue on in the calling of her life, which it's going to be awesome. One day I want to go to BibleHub.com and see the PaleoHebrew as well, which would be mind-blowing. So you have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye.